Okay, I'm going to take up this recording at the point at which we had a little bit of an issue. So I'm going to start, I'll just turn off my video and that'll pop out of the way in just a moment. And we had just worked on looking after our currency. And the next thing that I wanted to get into you with was the color. And that's where it all went horribly wrong. So we shouldn't have any issue this time. So just wanted to show you that I'm going to use this font group here. And the buttons that I'm going to use for color is this fill color button and this font color button. So I'm just going to highlight this area here and the fill color, this little bucket. What it does is it fills the background of the cell with color. And if I go into the down arrow, you're going to see that I can get a live preview with this, and I can choose whatever I need from there. So just to make sure you're comfortable with the rules, if you pick a dark color background, you should use a light color font. So you can see that's quite hard to see. So if I was going to use a dark color like that, I would then move on to the font. And again, I've got my light colors that I can pick from in here, but I'm going to go for white. So you can, if you want, put a different color onto every column. Equally, you could put a different color onto every cell if you want. Now, obviously, you're not going to want to do that in reality, but that's how easy it is to put color on. Now, I'm going to take the color back off again. So I'm going to highlight the area. And again, it doesn't matter if you highlight more than the area, as long as the other part of the area doesn't have any color in it to be removed. I want to get rid of this background color. So I'm going to click on the down arrow and I'm going to choose no fill. Now, when I do, it looks like I have lost all my writing in the A column, all my text. But of course, I made that font white. So it's just white on white. So I'm going to highlight that again. And to get it back, I just go back to the down arrow of the font color and I'm going to set it to automatic. And that means I'm going to get my writing back. So I'm going to highlight my headings, and generally the kind of the most formatting I would do tends to be on the headings, and usually I might make those headings center aligned using this alignment group, and I would make them bold. But for the sake of this webinar, I am going to go into the down arrow and I'll put on a dark color. So it's a darkish orange, and my writing would be more effective again if it was white. And again, just remember that if you take that off, you've always got to put the black color back on. So I'm happy with that now. And the next thing that I might look at format wise would be borders. The grid lines that you see here on the page are non-printing. So if you were going to print this out, you might prefer to put grid lines on the area that you've been working in. It makes it easier to read. So to do that, you simply highlight the area where you want the grid lines or the borders. And again, using this font group, you go to the borders button, which is this button here. You go into the down arrow to get the choice. And in the down arrow, you can see there are so many things that you can choose from. But the main one and the most important one for most people will be this choice called all borders. And it's only going to put those borders on the area that this has been selected. So when I deselect, you can see very clearly where the border lines are, and that this part of the page has no border lines whatsoever. So if I want to remove the borders, and to be honest, unless I was going to print, I wouldn't bother turning those border lines on. To remove them, I just select the area again. And again, it doesn't matter if you go beyond that, as long as the area beyond that doesn't have any border lines on it. You go back into the down arrow for the borders area, and you're going to see this choice called no border. Click onto that and it just removes the borders from the area that's selected. So that's our main formatting, the main areas that we kind of need to be aware of. So the next thing and kind of the last area we're looking at is the chart. That is something that a lot of us like to do, is to present our data as a chart. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this data and bring it into the chart. However, I only want to present the first column and the last column, so the product and the total sales. So why am I bringing the other columns into the selection? Well, by doing that, what it allows is it allows me to swap out this column, for instance, the total sales, and to put in this column instead. So that if I was presenting maybe to two different groups, and the first group want to see the product and the total sales, but the second group want to see the chart showing product and pallets sold, then I can switch this off and switch this one on. And I do that using a filter. Now, I'll never really show this one, but I'm just bringing it in anyway. I can switch it off. So the important thing to remember with charts, and we're going to create a column chart. It's the most common of all the charts to create. So what you need for a chart to work properly is you need text headings across the top of your data, which is what we have. Those text headings become the legend on the chart. You need text down the left of the highlight. So this is going to be our highlighted area. Text across the top, legend. Text down the left becomes the x-axis. All the other parts that are highlighted need to be figures because they're going to become the columns of our chart. What you do not bring into the selection is you do not bring in any extra calculations. You'd end up trying to chart on 200, 300%, etc. Plus, you have to have something in each of the cells, in each of the selection, in each of the columns. Okay, so that is our lovely square selection. So we now go up to the Insert tab, and on the Insert tab, right in the middle, you're going to see this group called Charts. So this is where we're going to be working from. And this first one here allows us to insert either a column or a bar, but it defaults to columns. So if I click onto that, it's going to give me different types of column charts that I can use. Now you can get a live preview of what it's going to look like by rolling your cursor over it. But personally, I always go for the plainest chart possible because I like to work on my charts myself and adjust them afterwards. So I'm going to click on this very, very basic clustered column, and that is going to be the basis of my chart. Now, when you create the chart, don't worry for the moment that it looks awful. We're going to deal with that. But when you create the chart, what you're going to find is that when your chart is selected, you will have two contextual tabs up at the top, and you'll have these three buttons here hanging off the right hand side of the chart. They are only there in the context of the chart being selected. So if I deselect the chart, you can see that the two contextual tabs have vanished and that the three buttons on the right of the chart are no longer there. And that's because I'm no longer in the context of the chart, so it doesn't waste the energy putting these features up on the screen. So when I click back onto the chart, the two contextual tabs always sitting to the right of help will appear back up again, and the three buttons on the right hand side will appear. So almost everything to do with our charts is going to be contained on these two tabs and these three buttons. There is one other area, but I'll show you that when we come to it. Now, the thing that I'm interested in first is getting rid of the information that I don't want in the chart. Because you can see here the total sales is what's dominating it, because obviously that's the highest figure. The price per pallet can barely be seen, and of course you can't see pallets sold at all because the figure is so low. So I want to filter out these two columns and just show the total sales. So I'm going to click on the filter button, and you can see these are the series that are being charted, and I can simply turn off pallets sold, turn off price per pallet, but I must click the apply button to apply it. So when I click that, that is what applies the change. Now, I love this particular feature because, as I say, if I was presenting to one group now, I can go ahead and present that information. And you can see it brings in the column heading as the title and as the legend. But if I'm presenting to a different group later and I want to show pallets sold, I just go back into that. I turn off the checkbox for total sales. I turn on the checkbox for pallets sold. And when I click apply, it becomes that data. So I love that because it means I don't have to make a second chart. I can just swap between the areas that I want. So this is a really, really nice feature. So I'm going to pop it back, turn off pallets sold, back on with total sales, and click apply. And I'm happy with that part. Now, the next part that I want to look at is I want to look at this axis. I am not happy with that. I do not like seeing an axis that is at that angle, because when you present that to somebody, you know they're going to have to turn their head sideways to read it, and that's just not comfortable. So to deal with this, and just supposing I kind of want to keep the chart at this size, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at changing the chart to a bar chart. So I keep the chart selected. On this chart design tab heading, I'm going to choose this button here called change chart type. So I'm clicking onto that and I'm going to change over from being a column to a bar. And when I click on that, I can rest my cursor on this to get a larger view of it. And you can see the way my axis on the left, it's totally readable now. And that's a much more preferable way to display the data. So I just bring my cursor off that. I'm going to click OK. And I'm definitely happier with the axis looking like this. However, there's still a little bit more work that I want to do with this to get it looking as good as it can. So the next thing that I want to look at is I want to look at the legend. And I don't actually need the legend. I'm going to keep that chart title. It's exactly the same as the legend. There's only a single series, so there's really no purpose to it. So on this chart design tab, over on the left hand side, I'm going to click on add chart element, and I can bring my cursor down onto the choice called legend, and you can see that bottom is what's currently turned on. And again, I have this lovely live preview. I could put it left, top, right, or the choice I'm actually going to make is none. But you know you can go back into that button and you can turn it back on anytime that you wish to do so. Okay, I'm happy with that. That's great. But now I'm not very happy with this down here. Now, if I just rest my cursor on it, that tells me it is the horizontal axis. So I know I could go up to add chart here, I could go on to axis and I could just click that off there. But I just want you to see that what you can also do is work directly on the chart. And I could have done this with the legend. I can just click on it and press delete on the keyboard. And that gets rid of it. But I know I can go back up to this button up here and I can turn it back on. So why did I get rid of it? Well, it wasn't really looking very nice. It wasn't being very helpful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the actual values of each of these beside the chart. So just before I do that, I really can't see any purpose now to these horizontal grid lines. So if I click onto one of them, they'll all get selected and I'm going to press delete on the keyboard. So again, I've got rid of any unnecessary stuff on the chart. And immediately my chart is looking so much cleaner. But now what I want to do, as I say, is put the values that you're seeing in here in total sales at the end here of each column. So, or each bar, I should properly say. So I'm going to click onto one of these bars. And when you click one, all of them get selected because they're all in the one series. I'm going to move up to the add chart element area here on the left. And I'm going to come down to data labels. At the moment, there are none, but I can put them on the center, inside end, inside base, outside end, which is the one I'm going to use, or I could even do a data call out. Doesn't look good for this one, but it can look great. So I'm going to choose outside end, and I am so much happier with that. That is really getting the information across for me. Now, there's a couple of the little changes that I want to make. While these columns are still selected, I'm going to pretend that that orange background is maybe my company color. So with the columns still selected, I'm going to make them orange. Now I'm going up here, but it's not the chart design tab, it's the format tab. So I click this. This allows me to do my own formatting to whatever is selected within the chart. So I'm going to just come to shape fill, and you can see the orange color is there from having done it from the home tab. And I'm just going to click onto that color so that it matches. And I'm definitely happy with that. Now, the last part is this. This axis, the vertical axis, whenever we do a bar chart, it flips the data around. So I want you to notice that I had this done sorted in alphabetical order. So Alpin is at the top, but here Alpin is at the bottom and Special K is at the top. Now, the easiest way to do this is once you have this axis selected is to double click it. And when you double click it, it's going to open up this taskbar on the right hand side, and it's the format axis taskbar. So it's pointing straight at that axis. So I know I'm on the right area. And if I move down, there's a choice there called categories in reverse order. And that's what I'm going to go for. And I'm really happy with that. And there's one extra little thing that I'm going to do with this, and that is I'm going to make the gap between these bars a little shorter. So if I now just give a click onto one of the bars, notice that this task pane changes to reflect the selection. And what I want to do is reduce the gap width, and reducing the gap width makes the bars bigger. And I'm now happy with that. I'm going to X out of it, and that is my chart created. So I hope that makes up for what you missed on this morning's session, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next session, and thank you.